Hello, this is World Stories, and I'm Sumi Somaskanda. Thanks for joining us. On this week's edition, we visit a gallery that's making art accessible to the blind. We find out how Costa Rica's banana growers are going green and how Russia's Olympic preparations are taking a toll on the environment. But first, although it's slowed of late, India's economy is still expanding by more than 5% a year. That growth means the country is consuming vast amounts of energy. But most emerging markets are so focused on growth that the switch from fossil fuels to renewable energy has taken a back seat. Still, in northern India, a regional energy provider has decided to invest in green technology. A biomass power facility is giving plant waste a second lease on life. Wolf Gebhardt shows us how the state of Rajasthan is taking clean energy production into its own hands.
It takes more than one try to unload this truck. It's packed full with chaff from surrounding farms. But the truck isn't dropping its load at the dump. It's dropping it at a power plant where farm waste becomes valuable biomass. It's harvest time in the southeastern part of India's Rajasthan state. Farmers are cutting mustard plants, one of the few crops that grow on such dry lands. For Mohan Chowdhury and his family, mustard plants mean financial security.
We're now harvesting mustard that we sowed some 4 months ago. We sell the kernels and bring what's left to the power plant.
The mustard needs to dry for a week before it can be threshed. Harvest waste, mostly husks and stalks, are loaded onto trucks. Not too long ago, farmers used to burn the waste in their fields. Today, they sell it to Anand Chopra, the manager of an Indian power company. 6 years ago, he helped build a biomass plant. The seeds of the mustard plant are processed into cooking oil, but the rest is used here. Chopra will need a lot of farm waste to cover anticipated demand over the coming months.
We are buying agro waste so that we can generate power. The quality of power should be good. There should be good quantity of power available, and it should generate employment here in this area.
This could mean more work for Mohan Chowdhury. Like most farmers in the area, the 44-year-old delivers the waste to the plant himself. Others use an aggregator, which saves time and gas. All told, there are around 5,000 farmers within a 50-kilometre radius. Chaudhry receives his compensation as soon as the delivery is weighed.
I now earn 40% more a year selling the chaff to the power plant.
Using biomass instead of coal means cleaner energy. But the work itself is dirty. Masks do little to protect the lungs from dust. The collection group transports some 250 tons of biomass to the plant every day. Now there's a slight crisis. A conveyor belt has gotten stuck. But with good salaries, plant manager Chopra has attracted talented engineers from around India. They keep the plant running smoothly. Burning farm waste releases the same amount of carbon dioxide that the mustard plants took in while growing. Since the power plant no longer burns coal, it won't release an estimated 36,000 tons of CO2 annually.
In comparison to coal, the biomass generates less carbon dioxide. The content of gases which are not environment friendly are, even if emitted to the atmosphere, are of a very, very low level.
Turbines make electricity possible. Using water pressure, they create 8 megawatts of electricity, enough to power 40,000 households. Like the Chaudhry's home. With the extra income, they were able to plant a second field and expand their house. Vital improvements for them and similar farming families. They also invest in their spirituality and in their god Shiva, the Hindu god of destruction and rebirth. By selling farm waste, their modest situation improved enough for them to build a temple for Shiva. Others want to join them. This mountain of farm waste doesn't belong to the plant, but rather to a middleman. What was once worthless now has a market value. Increasingly, people are moving away from coal and employing farm waste as fuel.
It's good for the farmers. More competition means better prices. When someone makes me an offer in rupees, someone else might come along and offer double. As a farmer, I sell to the buyer offering the best price.
I was purchasing the material at about 600 rupees ton, and now I am paying 2,100, 2,200 rupees per ton. So the prices have increased by more than 3 folds, and that is because of the competition.
Even though competitors might offer higher prices, farmers will still supply the plant. Plant owners want to generate power using biomass, and the farmers want to offer them a reliable supply.
This will be a long-term revenue source for them, and this has increased their quality of life. So everybody is happy that this plant has come.
Everyone benefits from the biomass plant. It supplies clean energy to the community and improves the lives of the mustard growers of Rajasthan.
Now, what is art? There are as many different answers to that question as there are people on this planet. But when we talk about art, we think of seeing it with our own 2 eyes, something most of us take for granted. But what if you're blind? How can you appreciate a painting? Well, an art gallery in Bulgaria has come up with a new project that makes famous paintings accessible to those who can't see. Nova TV's Sofia Stoicheva explains.
For the first time in his life, 27-year-old Ivailo is able to experience a painting by one of the old masters. Following the instructions of his audio guide, his hand moves over a 3D relief. This painting represents a young woman in a traditional Bulgarian costume. In the background are ripe pears. Ivailo is instructed by an audio guide to feel her hair and the classical features of her face. He says that the recording also describes colors, because blind people associate a very individual feeling with each color.
I can imagine the outline of the woman's face this way.
Do you think she's beautiful?
Well, I don't know. For me, beauty is an emotion. It's a sensation that makes me feel happy.
At the moment, Ivailo and other visitors with impaired sight can only access 6 paintings this way. A charity event is intended to yield enough funds to finance more.
We will darken the entire gallery so seeing people can experience how blind people see these paintings.
The money raised will be used to buy more 3D reliefs and audio guides.
It's like a labyrinth, and the audio guide navigates me through it. I have to follow the instructions to figure out where I am. It's very exciting to explore what the painting looks like, a highly enriching experience.
A promising initiative for the visually impaired.
Russia's luxury Black Sea resort of Sochi is getting ready for the 2014 Winter Olympics. Thanks to its proximity to the Caucasus Mountains, the city is hoping to provide one of the most spectacular games ever. Sochi itself has one of the mildest climates in Russia. Some 4 million people come here every year to enjoy the sunshine on Sochi's beaches and the spectacular views of the nearby mountains. Now the region is also a huge building site in its bid to impress the world with the Olympics. But this facelift is already taking its toll on nature. Alexander von Namen reports.
Sochi is situated on Russia's Black Sea coast. It's close to the Caucasus Mountains, home to one of the oldest national parks in the country. Vladimir Kimaev came to love the area as a child. He and his parents used to go hiking through the forests along the Black Sea coast. And today he's an environmental activist who campaigns to protect the region's unique subtropical nature.
It means a lot to me here. Every tree, every bush, every bee and fly, their fate matters to me. I grew up here and I'm a nature lover. I'm a local patriot.
But now this sensitive ecosystem is threatened. Gas pipes, streets, tunnels, and sports complexes are under construction ahead of the 2014 Winter Olympics. These days, Vladimir Kimaev is confronted by heavy machinery every time he goes out walking. He doesn't have much faith in the government's promises to adhere to green standards in its preparations for the Games.
There's no way they're trying to keep the environmental damage to a minimum. Trees have been cleared, the rock face is now barren, and the soil has been churned up in order to make way for a road for heavy vehicles.
Ski jumps in the mountains, speed skating rinks near the beach. From the outset, conservationists have voiced concerns about the environmental costs of the upcoming Games. But Sochi's organizing committee went ahead with plans regardless. Work is almost finished in the bay of Imretinskaya. What used to be a swamp area has been reclaimed and developed into an Olympic park with 6 stadiums, being built by the state corporation Olympstroy. Gleb Vatletsov, head of its environmental department, maintains that environmental concerns are a top priority.
Everything is checked very carefully, first in the planning phase, and then we check out those plans are being implemented. And then we monitor the environmental standards again before any new project is put to use.
It's hoped that the Sochi Olympics will set new green standards in sustainable construction, unprecedented in Russia, according to Vatletsov. They include environmentally friendly building materials, rainwater tanks, and optimized insulation.
Here at the ice skating rink, for example, a special glass is being used. One of our green standards is using energy-saving materials.
Vladimir Kimaev has heard of these green standards, but he's not pinning his hopes on them. What he's seen of the Olympic Park so far hasn't been confidence-inspiring. The beach at Imretinskaya Bay has been narrowed to make way for a concrete beach promenade.
Even minor storms wreak havoc here. The concrete walkway won't help much when we get gale force winds. The rest of the beach will just get washed away, and the water levels will reach the stadiums.
The countryside is proving vulnerable. In spring, this housing estate a few streets away was hit by a landslide. Many residents were forced to leave their homes. They say the landslide was caused by building rubble illegally deposited on the slope above the estate.
My house sank 2 meters into a deep hole in the ground. How can I continue to live there? This shed doesn't belong to me, it belongs to my neighbor. But these landslides just keep on happening.
And those responsible are getting away with it. Locals living in the shadow of the new Olympic Park feel they've been sidelined. Vladimir Kimaev is aware of the various environmental threats posed by the Olympic project. Some are serious, some less so, but they all add up. He has evidence of activities at the river Tsumta that no one could dismiss as minor. Vladimir Kimaev and other activists shot this footage in summer, They believe that chemicals used during construction work are being dumped into the river. They're having water samples tested to confirm their fears. But they can't expect any help from the authorities.
Those responsible aren't interested in working with us. Sometimes we feel we have no choice but to access the building sites illegally. When we do, the government and the Olympstroy Corporation condemn us as extremists.
The Winter Olympics 2014 is modern Russia's chance to showcase itself to the world. Anyone like Vladimir Kimaev who asks questions or criticizes the current preparations is seen as disloyal. But that's not enough to deter him from his mission, ensuring that the natural beauty of the Caucasus remains intact. One day, he wants to go walking in the hills with his grandsons.
Now to a problem that's affecting wildlife around the world: illegal poaching. Animal parts are trafficked around the world just like drugs and arms, and that trade generates hundreds of millions of dollars. Now the World Wildlife Fund says that market is booming, and elephants and rhinos in particular are vanishing fast. In fact, in South Africa alone, more than 630 rhinos were killed by poachers last year. Andrew Martin from UNTV takes us there for a closer look at what authorities are doing to combat wildlife crime.
Rhinos are facing their worst crisis in decades. Over the last few years, the number of animals being poached has exploded. Kruger National Park in South Africa has paid a heavy price for having the largest rhino population in the world. Ken Maggs is head of the South African Environmental Crime Investigation and Air Services.
I believe it's a big threat, a huge problem for us at the moment. The worst case scenario is that we lose every single rhino on the African continent.
Rhinos have been near extinction before. There were about 100,000 black rhinos in the 1960s, but they were hunted and poached until just 2,400 remained. Commercial trade in rhino horn was banned by CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, in 1977. Secretary General of CITES, John Scanlon.
If not for CITES, the rhino would be extinct in the wild today. It is because of CITES that the species has recovered to the point where we now have in the order of 25,000 rhino on the planet.
But as black market demand for their horns continues to surge, so does the killing. Over the last few years, poaching in South Africa has skyrocketed.
This species will be driven to extinction in the wild if these trends continue.
Wildlife crime is estimated to be worth billions of dollars a year. Attracted by spiraling profits, CITES believes organized crime syndicates are moving in.
We have the poaching groups well armed, from pistols to sophisticated military weapons, AK-47s, adequate ammunition. We've had poachers armed with hand grenades.
Rhino horn has been used in traditional medicine in China and Vietnam for centuries. But the demand for non-traditional uses is intensifying in the emerging economies in Asia.
I decided to buy this piece because I'm getting old and I need some medicine.
This Hanoi resident paid $2,000 for his piece of horn. After 20 minutes of rubbing the horn against a specifically designed bowl with a drawing of a rhino on the side, he poured the mixture into a glass and drank the milky liquid.
I heard from friends that this piece of rhino horn can cure many diseases, like stroke or fever. I heard the rumor that it can also cure cancer.
In the markets of Hanoi, it doesn't take long to find rhino horn for sale. But its authenticity is questionable. The CITES Management Authority in Vietnam believes a significant percentage of rhino horn for sale in the markets is fake.
The price is 144 million Vietnamese dongs for 100 grams. That's 7,000 US dollars.
The only way we're going to tackle this problem is by stopping the poaching, stopping the smuggling, and stopping the consuming.
The government of South Africa is fighting back. Soldiers from the South African National Defence Force have deployed in Kruger Park. And CITES is supporting a new DNA database which is aiming to profile the DNA of all of Africa's rhinos. The new technique will allow any rhino horn seized by police at border crossings to be identified, linking all perpetrators along the crime chain and helping bring about a prosecution.
This is going to be a tough, long fight. But if we all work together, range states, consumer states, at national level and international level, we will win this fight.
It is hoped that this new international cooperation will be a turning point in the protection of this incredible species. Otherwise, Africa's rhinos could slide over the brink into extinction.
And finally, to Costa Rica, a small Central American country with a big reputation when it comes to protecting the environment. Costa Rica has become a pioneer in sustainable development, from tourism to energy and agriculture. The country produces all sorts of crops, from coffee and sugar to fruits. In our next story, Canal 15 shows us how researchers there are working to expand banana production and keep the plants pest-free in a green way.
Banana farming has been traditionally associated with agricultural methods that rely on the use of pesticides. Now, a team of researchers in Costa Rica has developed alternative techniques for pest control.
Our work focuses on 4 areas: reducing the use of pesticides, restoring the necessary quality of our soil, investigating how climate change influences banana production, and the development of agronomic procedures based on environmental sustainability. This is the only way our research can make a difference to science, to the environment, and to society. Ultimately, our objective is to provide the consumer with a clean product and promote the country as one of the leading exporters of bananas worldwide. That's the difference. We want to provide the consumer with high-quality bananas. But we also focus on the social aspect, the fact that the bananas are produced in an environmentally friendly way.
Jorge Sandoval is Director of Research. His project specializes in the development of biological monitoring of eco-friendly procedures for farming bananas. His research team carries out lab experiments on how to cultivate microorganisms for pest control. Another focus is the banana germplasm bank, which preserves the genetic material of 143 different species.
This is where we store the gene material for a vast range of banana plants from all over the world. Our objective is to find out which species are resistant against certain diseases or parasites, or are able to tolerate them. And we store genetic reserves which might prove useful in the future for preserving the diversity of species.
The National Banana Corporation's Research Center in Costa Rica has drawn high acclaim for its focus on environmental issues. It's considered a state-of-the-art institution in Latin America.
Well, that's all for this edition of World Stories. We'll leave you with this week's Picks of the World. See you next time.
自由なんて無理だ自由